Welcome back to the Hillbilly RV channel. Today, Cameron is going to be changing his landing gear in his fifth wheel behind us. And if you're following my videos in order and you watched the live stream last night, well, this video is probably going to come out next week. If you watched the live stream here just the other day, you're going to know who we're working on today, but I'm not going to tell you. So if you want to know who we're working for, go back and watch the live stream. So yeah, like I say, Cameron's going to take a lead on this one. Just cause. It's just, you okay with that, Cam?
Yeah, I'm fine. The real reason is he didn't want to be stuck back in that hole.
Yeah, it's a dark place with no air movement, and we're going to try our best to video this. I don't honestly know how it's going to work out. That's well, let me show you where we're working. We are working back in that hole where you can't see nothing because it's dark and there's no air movement. And so we have to change this landing gear. Yeah, I came down here last week and diagnosed this, and this landing gear was it had some kind of catastrophic internal failure in the landing gear itself. And luckily, this is a Lippert. This is the part of the Lippert Ground Control 2.0, I think. Let me look. Yeah. Yes, it's part of the Lippert Ground Control 2.0. So that means that we can actually call Lippert and get the right part. So we took the little cap off the top of the old one. There's numbers inside of it, and I got the part ordered and got that. Now we're going to install it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started, and y'all hang on. We'll see what we can do. We'll do our best to video this, but I just don't know how it's going to work out. All right, we're just going to put our bottle jack under here and jack this thing up right here on the frame rail, and so we can get the weight off that landing gear, and then Cameron's going to take over. And I'm going to roll over right in front of y'all, so you won't be able to see nothing. It's just, I'm going to put the jack under there and jack it up. I mean, pretty simple, right? That's good. Oh, that's ours. We got the jack under there. We got all that stuff out under that landing gear. We had put a jack under that landing gear last week, just so that he could get his truck out from under that, because it was the landing gear failed while his truck was still under it. So he wanted to get his truck out from under there so he could drive around while he was staying here at this state park for a couple weeks. So we did what we had to do. Now Cameron is just getting that spring-loaded pin off there, so we can start disassembling this landing gear and get it changed. So he's just getting those two bolts out of that pin, and those pins are really nice. I like those pins. They do a fantastic job. I have seen those things break a few times though. Well, maybe even more than a few, because I've actually got a couple of those on the truck. Just because I have seen those break. So there's no weight on that landing gear. We've got all the weight on the jack. So that pin just pulls out like that. Now Cameron, if you will pull the release pin on that bottom, on that foot, and get that all out of the way, then you'll be ready to pull that landing gear up out after you get the bolt. So just lift that landing gear and get your foot out of the way. There you go. All right. Now, Cameron's going to go inside. Let me grab a light. There's two bolts, and those are carriage bolts. So the other side will hold itself. And you know what? They put those carriage bolts in the wrong direction. We're not gonna be able to get those bolts out.
That's right.
We can get the nuts off, but we can't get those bolts out because they put the bolts in the wrong direction. It's from the campers right there. And they're both like that. You know what that means, folks? We gotta take a sawzall or a hacksaw or something and cut those bolts off. And we have to have new carriage bolts to go back. And we put them in the right direction so you can get the bolts out. Holy shamolies. I gotta go see if I got 2 3/8 carriage bolts. Okay, we'll be back. So yeah, we're not even gonna try and set that camera up in there. Camera's getting those nuts off, and we're gonna see if those bolts will come out. And we hope we will. Hope they'll slide out far enough. If not, we're gonna have to cut them off.
Nope.
Nope.
It's kind of finger left inside that bracket.
Well, if we can get the bottom one out, we may be able to work with that. So go ahead and work on that bottom one. Probably, can you not, won't be easier to do from underneath or not?
Well,
no, okay. All right, so Cameron's gonna get that bottom bolt out, and we're gonna take a look at this situation, and or get the nut off that bottom bolt, and then we'll be right back. Cameron's getting that last bolt out. Of course, he said that nut come off hard all the way.
there we go.
And probably excess paint. It's probably the only part on the whole RV that has too much paint on it. I'm gonna lay down there and take a look at that bolt, see if it'll come out. I don't think so though. You see what I'm talking about these bolts? The bolt has to slide out of this bracket forward. Well, you can't because the front coach is here. So it's either cut these bolts off and put them back, put new bolts back in from the right side so that you can get the bolts in and out, or cut an access hole in front of the coach. And I don't think this customer wants to do that. So we're gonna take a sawzall, cut these bolts off, and then we'll get that landing gear out of there, and as soon as we get these bolts cut, we'll be back. But yeah, we're gonna work on that. So we'll be back. All right, Mr. Dirty Face there. He he's getting into his work today.
Yeah.
All right, actually, we got them bolts cut off. Man, it was easy peasy. So all we had to do, well, now here's the bolt we're gonna put back. We'd cut that head off so we get that bolt back out of there because they assembled it wrong. They assembled the frame and then built the camper around it, and never thought anybody'd have to take those bolts out. But Cameron is actually going to just go underneath there now. He can tilt that landing gear in. Pick up the bottom, Cameron, and then just tilt it. Try and tilt. There you go. Tilt. Keep going that way. All right. Now it should just slip right out the bottom. Watch them fingers, you get pinched. Yeah, you just got to work it out of that bracket. It's a little snug. And there you go. There's the old landing gear.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
It's a magic trick.
And for his next trick, he'll balance a ball on his nose and flap his flappers.
You guys got to pay to see that one.
Oh, you heard that, didn't you? Is that a call to go visit Patreon or PayPal?
I think it is.
Well, okay. You heard it from Cameron himself. So Cameron's going to pull the new one out of the box and show you how pretty and shiny it is. Yeah, get rid of that old nasty one. That one makes your face dirty.
Yeah, it does.
Now look at that, would you? Ain't that pretty? Yes, sir. Looks like a brand new one, don't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Probably going to be easier to just slip that in the top this time.
Okay.
And make sure you get that pointed to the inside. Alright. He's going to be in the way, but we're just going to put the new one in just the opposite of the way we took the old one out. So we'll be right back. So we got the new landing gear in, and we got one bolt in and started. We put it in the correct direction. So both bolts are in the correct direction. So the next person that may have to take this landing gear out, he won't have to cut the bolts. He just take the nuts off, slip the bolts out. That's how we should have been able to do it, but wasn't exactly how it worked out, was it, Cameron? He's concentrating so hard.
That wrench ain't gonna fit on there.
Well, we can get it from up here. We'll have to use the open end.
I mean, yeah, this end.
Yeah. And if it's too tight down there, we can get it from up here. I think it'd be pretty easy. Yeah, you can't always use the ratchet part. So we're just going to snug those bolts up. You do not want to go crazy on those bolts because you'll just bend your brackets all up. Let me show you something here. Those brackets in the camper where the bolts go through, all they do, see that little tab sticking out of the back of this? So make it focus. See this little tab? It just sticks out a little bit. Those tabs just ride on those brackets, and that's all that holds this camper up when it's sitting on the landing gear, is that little tab right there. Just one of them, because one of them keeps the landing gear from sliding down, one keeps it from sliding up. So the bracket fits around this, and the bolt, all it does is keeps this landing gear from sliding out of the bracket. That little tab right there is all that holds the weight of this camper right there. And that's the way all landing gears are made. It's not, this is not, that's not just specific to Lippert. That's the way they all made. That's the way they've always been made. There's one of those bolts we cut off. We just had to cut the head off so we could get that bolt out.
One more turn.
Yeah, just snug them up. Yeah. You can just keep going and just bend that bracket all to pieces. And that one's easy peasy. You use the ratchet on that one. Of course, you'll turn the wrench the wrong way the first time. What?
Not even.
What? That's the world's first. He turned the ratchet wrench the right direction the first try. Did you, Cameron? You done good.
That's my second magic trick for the day.
Hey, man. Holy moly, you guys are lucky today. So, all snugged up. Now we're going to put the motor back on. Actually, we need to get these two, the middle section of legs, we need to get them about the same height, just so that when we set this thing on the jacks, hopefully the ground control system, we won't wig it out, and we won't have to recalibrate it, and hopefully it'll still level itself when he wants it to. So yeah, we're just going to get those evened up, and how we're going to do that is Cameron's going to go over and measure on that other side how much is sticking out. Here's the tape measure, and I'm just going to turn this jack by hand here until we get it the same. So that's how that other one should have worked, but it locked up inside and ended up actually broke one of the shear pins in here. So we'll get this all evened up, and then we'll be right back. I need to fire my cameraman. Oh, wait a minute, that was me that day. See that motor and that gearbox has a little D-shaped hole in it. Fits right on that D-shaped shaft. Now that shaft you see sticking out of that gearbox, that's the manual override. It goes through that hole right there, and you can stick a crank handle in there and work it manually if something happens to the motor. Now when this one failed, it had an internal failure in the screw and the nut, and locked up and broke shear pins. So there was no manual work in this one. So that gearbox and that motor assembly just slides on that shaft. As soon as you get that D-shaped thing lined up on this new one, slides on pretty easy. Now that motor, the only thing that holds that motor and again gearbox on there is a couple little plastic tabs on the back. This little plastic retainer goes on that shaft and just keeps that stuff from sliding off, and that keeps those little tabs on the back side of the motor engaged and keeps that from turning. So it's these landing gears, nothing's really attached very solid on these landing gears. It just kind of it's just kind of there, you know. Just stuff retains it, but it's never really attached very well. So that little plastic collar just slides over there, and that screw, little Phillips screw, will just go right in one of those holes in the shaft, and it just keeps that stuff all together and keeps it from sliding apart. So it's a pretty ingenious system, I reckon. So we got those landing gear all evened up. Just that middle, or that, yeah, it's actually the middle section leg is what goes up and down. And so we got those evened up, and now Cameron is just going to put the customer spring-loaded pins back on the new landing gear, and then he'll just snug that all up, and we will wrap this thing up here momentarily. So there you have it. There is changing your landing gear on your fifth wheel trailer. Not a bad job. Cameron done most of this one, and he done a fantastic job. It's I mean, it's fairly simple. There's just a couple bolts, keeps the landing gear from sliding out of the bracket, and then, you know, and the motor and the gearbox just slips on and kind of attaches with that little plastic retainer. So yeah, it's not bad. It's a little bit dirty, as you can tell by Cameron's face, but that's because I think the customer had greased the landing gear a few times. So, but yeah, it's not too bad of a job. So me and Cameron, you know, we're gonna go up the road and fix another one, and y'all have a fantastic day. Does it look new and pretty?
It does.
Yeah, and UPS didn't. You know, I got one of them one time from UPS, and UPS had destroyed it. Now, how do you tear up a landing gear?
Wow.
They had dropped that thing and bent that. I mean, it was almost touching the leg. I couldn't believe it. I opened that box that day. I'm like, are you kidding me? Them boys just try and tear stuff up. You get a 50% chance to get that wrench right the first time, but you never get it. So it's really a 100% chance of getting it wrong.
No, it keeps getting stuck on something.